So we're only going to have 3 slides and then hop right into the meat of it, right? Hop right into the demonstration. But before we do, let's think, why are we here and why is HRSD important? So HR departments need to prioritize the privacy and security of all employee information. So that's current and those new onboarding employees as well. So including tax information, resumes and other documents, this data can be compromised during review and approval processes. So ultimately, this causes pain for HR teams. This is one of the reasons, right? This is precisely why many enterprise HR organizations adopt a solution like Microsoft SharePoint. So this ultimately locks down PII, that personal identifiable information. However, integrating SharePoint with ServiceNow for information circulation and approvals can bring about some challenges. So, one of which is today in ServiceNow, you only have the capability to integrate with O365, and DTech apps by Discover supports all the way back to on-prem SharePoint 2013. There's also this interesting offering that actually came about from a customer request. So that is file migration. So best practice, some customers are beginning to take upon moving documents that are in ServiceNow and bring them into a more modernized and secure platform of SharePoint. So feel free to ask questions about that, and we can assist with that endeavor. Feel free to reach out. So the last 2 slides are just going to cover briefly what we'll talk about today. So embedding SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint in HRSD. Ultimately, this extends the reach of ServiceNow since the solution we're going to look at today is natively built on the platform, right? It's an app on the App Store. And what you'll see, like on the right, is we're going to maintain a consistent user interface. So those, HR personnel that are already using ServiceNow, it will be very familiar to them. Connecting ServiceNow to SharePoint, right? That's the key theme today, and that ultimately allows you to collaborate, like co-edit within documents, and also digitally sign documents. The second piece we're going to take upon from the portal perspective. So before was platform. This is from the portal perspective of right now you see the Employee Center Pro. We can also support the traditional ServiceNow landing pages, right? Those catalogs as well. So how can we place ServiceNow at the core of your business with a single and centralized landing page? So that is one where you come in, whether it's knowledge articles or requests, everything can be done in this one single pane of glass. And that could be enhanced, right, by federated search. So if you notice, this says Microsoft, not just SharePoint, where we can also index Outlook and Teams. And as promised, that very brief overview, and now we can actually dive into the demo. The purpose of today's demonstration is to walk through the ServiceNow connection to SharePoint with DTech apps. So we're going to cover how that integrates both in platform and portal. Just note, this can also be done in Workspace as well. This will be in relation to HR, where you can retain SharePoint security without needing to leave the ServiceNow platform and the extension of said platform. For many of you on the call, this probably looks very familiar. We see in HRSD, we see a record with all of the important information, right? All the critical information that you need, right? Who opened it, and any of the context that is associated. The one piece that you might be new to you is this HR Documents tab. And this is actually Doc Integrator, so that's ServiceNow SharePoint connection where it's in the same user experience. It just extends that platform. While this looks like it lives in ServiceNow, these documents all live and breathe in SharePoint. So essentially, we're just bringing those two together as that bridge. We're going to cover two pieces in this section, one being co-editing with documents and the other one performing digital signatures. Before we do so, just a quick note, we can also, for collaboration purposes, upload documents, and again, they go and hit SharePoint directly. All the while, keep note that we are leveraging the permissions that you already have set up in SharePoint. We are not trying to break that system or recreate the wheel. So without needing to swivel chair, but still being able to leverage SharePoint, let's hop into one of these documents. So what we're looking at right now is two different individuals both logged into the same document, one that just went right into SharePoint and the other one on the left that just stayed within that ServiceNow experience, but we can still co-edit the document together, right? As you see, the two different individuals. So as you see, as one individual, types information, adds comments, this is all visible for both personnel. And again, throughout this process, we are not leaving the ServiceNow experience in order to leverage this capability. And that part is really as simple as that. Just being able to not leave and swivel chair from experience to experience. We'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but we've seen customers bounce from tab to tab. So this just makes that process much easier and supports data integrity additionally. The next piece we're going to cover is digital signatures. So for many of the government agencies that we support, they use a PIV or CAC for digital signatures. So we do support those. We're going to cover a digital signature in Adobe in a few moments, but note this could be done in Adobe Pro, so paid Adobe Pro, DocuSign if you are married to one of those solutions, and additionally in free Adobe Reader. One of the common use cases that we hear is an employee receiving an email or having a ServiceNow attachment. And this document is then downloaded, it is digitally signed, it is uploaded into SharePoint, right, saved and uploaded, hoping we uploaded the correct version, right, to the correct location, and that could make the whole process of versioning and data integrity very difficult as well. So we can see via approvals and signatures, digitally signing for, again, for those government entities via our PIV and CAC, and we can forward these for, again, review and approval. So what we just saw was digitally signing in Adobe. And what you'll see in a moment is when we open this up directly in SharePoint, you see that this lives and breathes in SharePoint, and these are the signatures that we just made. So ultimately in this section, we are collaborating and operating in the centralized ServiceNow experience, but leveraging all of the goodness and all of the power in SharePoint. Ultimately, this streamlines our collaborative policy creation process, supporting ease of use and data integrity with versioning as well. In the next section, it's going to be all about the portal experience. So let's transition into the employee service portal. And this allows you to really put ServiceNow at the core of your business for end users. How can we enable employees with one simple look and feel? And on this note, we've seen customers, and I've seen it when they share their screens, they have many tabs opened up to find out what they need. So we're going to see how we can do that in a much simpler way. As an end user, right, any employee within your organization, you come into this centralized landing page. This might be familiar if you have the employee pro, and if you don't, still the same rule applies for the traditional ServiceNow portals as well, where you can create tickets, right? You can make requests, any type of knowledge article, and what we're going to focus on here is the federated search capability. And what this is doing is just extending the use of ServiceNow. Again, we can search and query against the knowledge bases or Outlook, SharePoint Teams, so the Microsoft suite as well. We're going to focus on SharePoint, but just to answer a question that we're typically asked for Outlook and Teams, this is only looking at the individual's Outlook and Teams, right? So you're only looking at those messages and emails that are associated with the individual who is logged in. And similarly, for SharePoint, we are leveraging those permissions and capabilities that we are just inheriting again from SharePoint like before. Similar to going into SharePoint directly, on the left side, you see all of just the filter options where one common use case we see with customers is when you're at a company for really more than a couple months, you start getting inundated with different files. And it's difficult to keep track of where do they live? How can I find them? And really the answer is it doesn't matter. You can come into this one single pane of glass and search against both ServiceNow and your Microsoft suite. And this allows you to query, and then you can always filter down to find the document that you need. So ultimately, what that means is we're enhancing the native experience that many of you are probably already leveraging today within portals. And unfortunately, one additional downside that we hear is some customers, for usually the simple use cases, simple documents, they need to recreate some of those documents. And if not, managing versions can definitely be a nightmare when you're talking about multiple separate duplicates. So before in HRSD within the platform, we collaborated on a file. So two individuals in the same file at the same time. We're going to take a very different approach, and this is more like the opposite of having the system locked down. We're leveraging SharePoint's permissions, so if you can't do something in SharePoint, you can't do it here either. So as a user, when we hop into the document, again, this takes us directly into SharePoint. What we'll note is if we don't have capabilities or permissions in SharePoint, we will not have that capability to edit here as well. So this just provides us with read-only access. So what this is doing is ensuring that we don't break your current system. We're really just trying to add a puzzle piece to the mix. So to bring it full circle, HR teams have historically struggled with privacy and security, and this is why Microsoft SharePoint is as good as it is. We covered DTech app solutions with SharePoint connecting to ServiceNow. This can be done in any app, right? So we focused today and targeted HRSD. This can also support for other customers, SPM, CSM, both in platform and in portal, and additionally, again, in workspace as well. We can centralize our documentation to ensure PII, right, that personal identifiable information is locked down and protected. At the end of the day, by adding this puzzle piece with DTech apps, it's all about extending your ServiceNow investment and retaining SharePoint security and permissions, but again, all from one single experience.